Have you ever stopped to think that it might actually be more expensive to be poor? It sounds completely backward, I know, but for millions of people, it's a daily reality. Today, we're going to break down something called the poverty penalty, all those hidden costs that can trap people in a cycle that's really, really hard to break.
So let's just jump right into the big question here. How on earth can having less money mean you end up paying more for the exact same things? It's not about making bad choices or not knowing how to budget. It's about a system where a lack of resources comes with its own built-in financial penalty.
Okay, so here's the official term for what we're talking about. The poverty penalty isn't an accident. It's about structural costs that are kind of baked into our economy. It means that for the most basic necessities, we're talking everything from laundry detergent to just having a bank account, the price you pay can be a lot higher if you're on a lower income. Let's see exactly how that works. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to look at three pretty common, everyday situations that really pull back the curtain on how this penalty plays out in the real world. First up, let's talk about something as simple as going to the store. You've heard the advice a million times, right? Buy in bulk, you'll save so much money. But what if you just can't? Here's exactly how it breaks down. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you just don't have the cash on hand to buy that giant economy-size bottle. You have to buy the small one to get you through the week. But if you have a little more financial cushion, you can buy the big one, get a lower price per ounce, and even wait for it to go on sale. Over time, that small bottle adds up to a massive premium for the very same product. And wow, this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? Just look at that difference in the cost per ounce. That smaller bottle, the one you're forced to buy when cash is tight, costs dramatically more for the same amount of soap. And let's be clear, you're not paying for convenience here. You're paying a penalty for not having enough money up front. And this penalty, it doesn't just stop at the grocery store. Not by a long shot. Let's move on to our second example, banking. You know, having a bank account is pretty essential these days, but if you have a low balance, it can feel like a minefield of hidden fees. $35. Think about that. That's a pretty typical fee for overdrawing your bank account, even if it's just by a few cents. For someone just scraping by, a tiny little miscalculation can trigger this absolutely massive penalty. Now, this is where it gets really wild. Check out this domino effect. You make a simple $2 purchase, maybe a coffee, a bus ticket, and bam, that $35 fee hits your account. All of a sudden, that $2 item has actually cost you $37. A single fee like this can kick off a downward spiral that is incredibly difficult to escape, and it creates this constant stress over every single purchase you make. Okay, now for our third and honestly most dramatic example, transportation. For so many people, a car isn't a luxury. It's an absolute necessity to get to work. But for buyers with low credit, trying to get that car can turn into a devastating trap. So let's set the stage. Here's a decent used car. The fair market value for this vehicle is $6,000. That's what it's actually worth, okay? Remember that number, $6,000. Now get ready for this. With a high-interest subprime loan, which is often the only choice for someone with a poor credit history, that same $6,000 car ends up costing them a jaw-dropping $20,000 by the time it's all paid off. And this chart just says it all. That little slice of the pie, that's the $6,000 that actually went toward the car itself. The rest of it, that massive blue section, $14,000, is pure interest and fees. That is the poverty penalty in its most extreme form. You're paying more than triple the car's value just for the privilege of financing it, and it traps you in a cycle that hurts not just your wallet, but your ability to get to better jobs and opportunity. So what happens when you put all of these things together? You know, they don't just add up one by one. They compound. They feed into each other, creating a system that is incredibly tough to break free from. So let's just quickly recap the cycle. You're paying more for your day-to-day essentials, then a small mistake can instantly become a big debt. And on top of that, a vehicle you absolutely need costs you 3 times what it's actually worth. Each one of these penalties makes it harder to save, harder to build credit, and just keeps the cycle going. And if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's this right here. This isn't a story about people making bad financial decisions. It's a story about a system where having fewer options automatically means you pay a higher price. It makes it that much harder to ever get ahead. It's a structural problem, not a personal failing. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Once you start looking for the poverty penalty, you really start to see it everywhere. In housing, in healthcare, even in the justice system. What other hidden costs are built right into our systems that we might be overlooking? And what does that tell us about the true price of just trying to get by?